Pablo Holman, Deep Future, Creating Technology That Matters. Silicon Valley has gotten really good at putting computers in our pockets and optimizing ad clicks. But while tech bros have been busy disrupting taxi companies, the really big challenges have gone untouched. Think about it. Energy, water, food production, and manufacturing form the backbone of human civilization. Yet in the 21st century, these areas have barely advanced, even as computing power has doubled every 2 years like clockwork. This is not for lack of scientific know-how. Breakthrough scientific discoveries have the potential to lead to paradigm-shifting technologies, but the tech industry has favored easy wins over monumental change. But something's changing. We're finally reaching a tipping point where scientists and engineers are finally tackling the toughest challenges with the same exponential ambition that brought us smartphones. We call this deep tech, and it's not just another buzzword. It's our roadmap to changing the world at its most fundamental level. Curious to know where deep tech could take us? Then let's get started. Think beyond software. Here's the thing. People think we live in a high-tech world because we've got smartphones and endless apps. But strip away the sleek interfaces, and what do you find? Software. Lots and lots of software. Thanks to software, we've optimized everything from food delivery to photo sharing. But these are essentially the same computational tools applied in new ways, what we call shallow tech. We disrupted how we order taxis with Uber, not transportation itself. We revolutionized how we share vacation photos with Instagram, not how we actually travel. So what's the opposite of shallow tech? Deep tech. Deep tech isn't a reconfiguration of how we apply existing technologies. It's the creation of entirely new tools for humanity's toolkit. Let me show you how this plays out across 5 key areas, starting with AI. And I don't mean the chatbot serving you ads. I'm talking about artificial intelligence that folds proteins, predicts molecular behavior, or designs new materials atom by atom. These machines grasp the fundamental building blocks of reality, potentially revolutionizing drug discovery by compressing decades of research into just months. But AI is just the beginning of our journey into the microscopic realm. Biotechnology works at a similar scale, programming cells like we once programmed computers. Scientists are engineering bacteria to eat plastic waste, designing custom immune cells to hunt cancer, even growing meat in labs without animals. Where AI models the building blocks of life, biotech actively rewrites them. To push these cellular reprogramming efforts even further, we need computational power that defies conventional limits. Quantum computing operates on an entirely different principle from your laptop. While traditional computers process information in binary, ones and zeros, quantum computers harness the weird properties of atoms themselves. They can exist in multiple states simultaneously, potentially cracking encryption that would take classical computers millennia. Imagine solving climate modeling problems that are simply impossible today. This quantum leap in processing power becomes essential when we need to engineer at nature's smallest scales. And that's exactly where nanotechnology comes in, operating where physics gets truly strange. Imagine building machines smaller than viruses or drug delivery systems that can target individual disease cells with surgical precision. We're talking about rewriting the rules of manufacturing from the ground up. The precision control that nanotechnology promises depends entirely on having the right materials to work with. Which brings us to the foundation underlying all these technologies: advanced materials. Science goes beyond what nature provides, designing substances with properties that simply don't exist naturally, materials that heal themselves when damaged or conduct electricity better than anything we've discovered in 4 billion years of evolution. These engineered materials become the canvas on which all other deep tech innovations are built. This isn't just innovation within existing paradigms. This is expanding what's physically possible. Deep tech doesn't just give us better apps, it gives us better atoms. Deep tech is critical to a livable future. Here's our reality: finite resources, growing population, climate emergency accelerating faster than anyone predicted. The software solutions that made Silicon Valley famous? They're not going to cut it this time. We need hardware. actual physical technology that can move atoms, not just bits. But here's the thing about hardware. It's hard. Silicon Valley has a saying, hardware is 10 times harder than software. And the history of Silicon Valley is littered with failed hardware projects, from Google Glass, those $1,500 smart glasses that made you look like a cyborg and were famously unfit for purpose, to the Juicero, the $400 Wi-Fi connected juicer that squeezed proprietary juice packets, which, as disgruntled customers soon realized, could literally be squeezed by hand. These failures explain why hardware has always lagged behind software. Risk. Venture capitalists love software because you can pivot quickly and cheaply. Hardware? One manufacturing mistake and you're toast. But when hardware works, it really works. Look at NVIDIA. Their graphics chips accidentally became the foundation of AI, or Fitbit and GoPro, which created entirely new categories of consumer devices. The pattern is clear. Breakthrough hardware doesn't just improve existing markets, it creates entirely new ones. And we're seeing this same potential emerge in major fields. Shipping, for example, Ladon Robotics has built self-sailing boats that navigate autonomously using wind, solar, and battery power. In fact, robotic boats have already sailed around the world uncrewed. But what if we could scale this up? Picture cargo ships the size of football fields, powered entirely by renewable energy, carrying containers across oceans without a single drop of fossil fuel. The numbers here are staggering. Global shipping moves over 11 billion tons of cargo annually. That's nearly 90% of everything traded internationally. These massive cargo ships burn the dirtiest fuel imaginable, operating on both refined and unrefined petroleum that accounts for about 3% of global emissions, roughly equivalent to the entire aviation industry. Transforming shipping could change everything. Imagine cleaning up one of the world's dirtiest industries while making global trade faster and cheaper. That's exactly the kind of hardware solution our planet urgently needs. Deep tech needs to go nuclear. Two technologies, closely related but absolutely not the same. One devastating and detrimental, the other revolutionary and a genuine solution for global warming. One we've all but outlawed, the other should be proliferating. Here's the thing, we've outlawed the wrong one. I'm talking about nuclear bombs and nuclear reactors. The irony is hard to ignore. For decades, we've feared the very technology that might have prevented our climate crisis. If we'd embraced nuclear energy instead of abandoning it after a few high-profile accidents, today's desperate climate conversations might not even exist. The physics alone should convince us. Nuclear reactors work by splitting uranium atoms, releasing enormous amounts of energy, millions of times more than burning coal or gas. A pellet of uranium the size of your fingertip contains as much energy as a ton of coal. America's 92 nuclear reactors already provide about half the country's clean energy, yet we treat this incredible energy density like a liability rather than our greatest asset. Traditional nuclear does have legitimate challenges. You need to enrich uranium, a process which creates weapons-grade material. You need massive cooling systems. After all, Chernobyl's meltdown happened when cooling failed, and you're left with radioactive waste that stays dangerous for thousands of years. But here's where deep tech transforms the entire equation. Scientists are developing traveling wave reactors, nuclear plants that actually run on nuclear waste. Instead of needing enriched uranium, these reactors can use depleted uranium, spent fuel from existing plants, even natural thorium. A slow-burning candle of nuclear fuel, steadily moving through the reactor core over decades. This wave of fission gradually transforms waste material into usable fuel as it burns. This elegant solution addresses every traditional nuclear concern. No enrichment, no new waste, no proliferation risk. These reactors could theoretically run self-sustained for 60 years without refueling or removing spent fuel. Unfortunately, regulatory hurdles mean we haven't built a single prototype, but the science is sound and the potential is extraordinary. Food and tech are not incompatible. Picture this, an Italian grandmother making fresh pasta in her kitchen. You can't get more low-tech than that, right? Well, not if you think about what's behind these homespun processes. The wheat was selectively bred over centuries, milled using industrial machinery, transported via global logistics networks. Even that simple rolling pin represents manufacturing advances. Technology has always been baked into how we eat. The problem is, food rhetoric loves tradition, and tradition can blind us to the massive problems we need to solve in feeding our planet. The way we feed ourselves now is wildly inefficient. We waste 40% of all food before it reaches our mouths, either lost in agricultural processes or tossed by consumers. And here's something that'll blow your mind. Food is roughly 90% water, yet we ship it around the globe every single day. Think about it. We're essentially paying to transport water across oceans. A tomato from California to New York is mostly just expensive water with a bit of tomato wrapped around it. This is where deep tech gets really interesting. Companies are developing 3D food printers that can recreate complex textures and flavors, layer by layer, that just need to be hydrated to be activated. With this technology, fresh ingredients could become shelf-stable. Imagine if we could develop powdered tomatoes that taste exactly like fresh ones when rehydrated. Not the sad cardboard stuff you find in instant soups, but ingredients that capture the full flavor profile and nutritional content of fresh produce. Picture shipping lightweight, concentrated food that doesn't spoil, doesn't need refrigeration, and reconstitutes into something virtually indistinguishable from fresh. We could cut food transportation costs by 90%, eliminate massive amounts of spoilage, and still deliver restaurant-quality ingredients anywhere in the world. A chef in rural Montana could access the same quality tomatoes as someone in San Francisco, without the environmental cost of shipping water across continents. This isn't about replacing traditional cooking. It's about making great ingredients accessible to everyone while solving some of the biggest inefficiencies in our food system. Building deep tech solutions. Here's something that might surprise you. Cement production accounts for 8 to 13% of global CO2 emissions. That's a double whammy. Making cement requires enormous heat, and the chemical process itself releases carbon dioxide. Worse yet, modern cement doesn't last forever. It starts degrading after about 50 years, which is why we have to reinforce it with steel to prevent buildings from crumbling. Efforts to decarbonize cement production exist, but they haven't scaled due to the immense costs and the need for a complete infrastructure overhaul. The cement industry is massive and deeply entrenched. What if the future of cement actually lies in the past? While modern cement degrades, ancient cement doesn't. The Colosseum is made of cement, yet it's rock solid after 2,000 years. How is that possible? For decades, people theorized that Romans added volcanic ash or had some secret recipe. But MIT's Admir Masick finally solved the mystery. Here's the thing about concrete. It always cracks when water seeps in, and that water destroys it from the inside out. But Roman cement had lime deposits mixed throughout. When water gets into those cracks, it actually activates the lime, which then expands and fills the cracks automatically. Self-healing cement. Dr. Masick turned this discovery into a company called DMAT, which develops additives inspired by Roman concrete chemistry. These additives seal cracks in modern concrete, reducing our dependence on carbon-intensive Portland cement. Think about the implications here. Buildings that repair themselves, lasting centuries instead of decades. Infrastructure that becomes more durable over time rather than constantly degrading. We could dramatically reduce both the carbon footprint of construction and the need for constant rebuilding. Sometimes the most advanced technology isn't about inventing something completely new. It's about understanding something ancient well enough to make it better. A health tech revolution. Computers have become so sophisticated that we've deployed them to decode the deepest mysteries of human biology, and they might revolutionize how we treat disease. Computers have become so advanced at reading code that we've unleashed them on the ultimate code base, human DNA. What we're uncovering is transforming medicine. It turns out our genetic code is surprisingly redundant, like software filled with commented out lines. The trick is identifying which snippets actually matter, what determines your eye color, or carries the BRCA gene, which increases the risk of breast cancer. This code cracking has transformed our understanding of cancer itself. Cancer isn't really a noun, it's a verb. Your body is essentially cancering all the time. with cells going rogue constantly. Your immune system does an incredible job catching these cellular rebels, but sometimes cancer finds a way to break through the defenses. Companies like Orianas Bioscience are now targeting interventions directly in the immune system, essentially upgrading your body's antivirus software to recognize and eliminate cancer cells more effectively. Computing is solving other medical puzzles too. Take inflammation. It's actually a good thing when you cut your finger. Your body sends repair crews to the site, causing redness and swelling as they fix the damage. But inflammation can be too much of a good thing. When you have a stroke, your brain triggers the same inflammatory response, flooding damaged tissue with immune cells that can actually make the injury worse. Traditional anti-inflammatory drugs aren't appropriate for stroke treatment. They're too blunt an instrument. But here's where it gets fascinating. Your vagus nerve acts like a master switch for inflammation throughout your body. Ornier Labs has developed what's essentially wearable anti-inflammatory AirPods. The vagus nerve has a branch that extends through your ear, making it accessible to a small earphone device that can stimulate the nerve and dial down inflammation precisely where needed. But all of these advances, from cancer immunotherapy to precision nerve stimulation, are just the beginning. We're moving toward a future where computing doesn't just help us understand biology, but allows us to program it, the convergence of code and life itself. That's where the real transformation happens.